Okay, today's daf, Be'ezras Hashem, is Masechta Baba Basra, daf Kuf Lamed Vav. Kuf Lamed Hey, sorry, Kuf Lamed Hey, and we're going to begin from daf Kuf Lamed Daled Amid Beis, Iboy Lahu. The discussion, and it's nice stories today and interesting things about belief. Do you believe somebody? So here we go. Iboy Lahu, the question was asked in the yeshiva. We know that if a person says Geirashti Asishti, let's just back up a line. If he says I divorced my wife, so then he's believed only if it's lahab. In other words, like this: if a person says Geirashti Asishti, person says I divorced my wife, he's not believed. And in other words, let's say it's Ear time, and he says I divorced my wife in the first of Nisan. Nobody knows anything about it. He says I divorced my wife in the first of Nisan. And we know his wife was mizana with somebody, let's say on the 15th of Nisan. By him saying, I divorced my wife in the 1st of Nisan, he's effectively saying that we were divorced, and therefore she's not liable for the death penalty for being mizana in the 15th of Nisan because she was divorced already. In that case, since she was a cheskas eishes ish, she's assumed to be a married woman, we didn't know anything about the divorce, he's not believed. Kan lahaba. But when is he believed? If he says, I divorced my wife right now, if I divorced my wife right now, well, we believe him. Why? Because he could divorce her technically 2 seconds later. So he's believed if he says, I divorced my wife at this moment, and if she would be Mazana, let's say in 2 weeks from now, she'll be not liable for the death penalty. So Ibailahu, so the Gemara asked in a question, Ama lemafreya, if a person says, I divorced my wife 30 days ago, so he's not believed, but Mahu, would you believe him, lemnenu lahaba? If for the future, would you believe him that from now on she's divorced? Because he's not saying I'm divorced my wife right this moment. He's saying I divorced her 30 days ago. Well, you don't believe him when he says I divorced my wife 30 days ago. So the question is, would you believe him for the future? So would you believe him for the future? That means we split his words. Mi palgim in deburi. Do we split somebody's words? Allah palgim deburi. Do we not split his words? That you're partial not believe, and partial you are believe. So Rav Mori, Rav Zvid, it's a machlekes between Rav Mori and Rav Zvid. Chadam palginen, we split his words. Chadam Allah palginen, and some say we don't split his words. So the Gemara says, why don't we say palgin and debura? Everybody should agree that we split his words. Look at this. Maishnama de Rava. The Amar Rava. Rava said like this. What's this different than what Rava said? Rava said, a husband said, Ish Pliny, so and so, Baal Ishti was mizana with my wife. So now both him and his wife that person and the wife a chayiv mitzvah, right? Because they're mazana with the Eishes Ish. But a husband is not believed on his wife. So va'achar, the husband and another aid, mitzdarfin, can combine lahargai to kill the adulterer. Lahargai to kill the adulterer, lahargai, not to kill her, because a husband can't say edus against his wife. So we see that we do split somebody's words. Sometimes in the same story, we halfway believe him, and we halfway don't believe him. Regarding his wife, we don't believe him, but regarding the other perpetrator, we do believe him. So how come you have a machlekes if you split somebody's words or not? Answers the Gemara, betray gufei palginim. When it's two separate human beings, we can split. We can say that we believe the husband regarding the adulterer, but not regarding his wife. Bechad gufa, but with one person, loy palginim will not split his words. In other words, by saying girashti is ishti 30 days ago, you're not going to say, oh, 30 days you don't believe him. And then from now on, you're going to believe him. That we won't say. New story. Ahu, we go to Daf Kuf Lamed Hey Amid Alf. Ahu dahava kashachet. There was this person that was on his deathbed, and he had brothers and not children. So now we know his wife should fall the even. Amrulay, they asked to him, Itaselaman. Right before he's dying, they asked him, what do you think? What's going to happen with your wife? Is she going to fall to Yibam? You're dying here and you have no children. Amalahu, he said, Chazi lekahana Rabba. You should know, when I die, she can marry the biggest Kayan, or this great Rav Kahan. Why? Because he's implying that he gave her a get. So he gave her a get, a man. Now she died. Does she fall to Yibam? Do we believe that nobody heard anything about this get? And now he's saying on his deathbed, I gave my wife a get. Amar Rava, my necheshla, what should we be concerned? Amar Rav Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Baal she'amar garashti ishti. If a man says, I divorced my wife, Naaman, he's believed, which was not what we said before. Amalei Abaya, that's not true. Vaha ki asa Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Baal she'amar, a husband that says, garashti ishti yeina Naaman. He says he's not believed. So that's, we shouldn't believe him. We shouldn't believe a guy on his deathbed saying he divorced his wife. Amalei. So wait a second. Amalei. Hi. We just began. We're on Taf Kuf Lamed Hey Amad Aleph, like 5 lines from the Taf. Kuf Lamed Hey Amad Aleph. Amalei. Belav mi lo shaninuhu. Didn't we answer? Kan lemafreya. When it retroactively, we don't believe a person saying he divorced his wife. The kan lahaba, but if he's saying I divorced my wife right now, for the future, you would believe him. And the woman's divorced. So again, the story is the guy's on his deathbed. They asked him, is your wife going to fall to Yibam? He has no kids, he has brothers. He says, no, she could get married after. So basically he's saying, I divorced her right now. And therefore, we should believe him. We should believe him, and that when he dies, even though we don't know if she had a get or not, no bezdin or anything like that, we're going to assume that he was telling the truth on his deathbed. So why don't we believe him? So the Gemara says, "Vashnuya nekim lismoich." On this answer, we're going to be soymech and let this woman go without a chalitza. I mean, it's who knows? Maybe we don't absolutely believe a person to say that he divorced his wife. When it comes to, let's say, a person says, I divorced my wife right now, right? And we don't know for sure. So then, if the woman would be mizana, let's say in a week from now, we're not going to put her to death because maybe he was telling the truth. But in this case, we want this woman to now go with the man on his deathbed, saying that he divorced his wife and then he died. We're going to say that she should go marry somebody else without a chalitza. Maybe we should be choishish that he did not indeed divorce his wife. He wasn't telling the truth. Amalei Rava Rav Nasan Barami Kushla, we should be concerned about that. And therefore will not let this woman marry somebody else without getting a chalitza from the brothers. Let's do another story. Ahu dahava muksak lon the lesle achi. There was this woman that we know guaranteed. I mean, we never heard that the husband had any brothers. And the guy's on his deathbed, so she wasn't falling to Yibam. Amar, and the person said on his deathbed, B'shas Misa, the Leslie Achi, I have no brothers. So he is validating the chazaka that his wife should not fall to Yibam. Rav Yosef said, "My leicheshla, what should we be concerned about this woman falling to Yibam?" Chado, for one point is the muchsak lon the Leslie Achen. We know for a fact that this husband has no brothers, so she's not going to fall to Yibam. And furthermore, ha'ama b'shas misa the Leslie, he even agreed while he was on his deathbed. He said, "I have no brothers," and then he died. So what are you going to? Who should she fall to Yibam? Of course, now her husband dies. She can go get married to whoever she wants. Okay, Amalei Abaya, but Abaya said, "Ha'amri," but people are talking in the streets. The Ike Edim in Medina Siyam, that there are witnesses overseas, the Yadi, the Islay Achi, that know for a fact that the husband it did indeed have brothers. So I don't have the witnesses in front of me, but people are schmoozing in the street that there are Edim somewhere in another country that could say testimony that this guy did indeed have a brother. So why should we let this woman, marry whoever she wants? Well, maybe the Eidim would come and say, oh, there was a brother here and she actually should have fell to Yibam. And says the Gemara, Hashta Mia Kol Es Nekaman. Right now, the Eidim are not here. So it's just a rumor. We're not going to be choshit for that. Lav Hainu the Rab Chanina. Isn't this the same story of Rab Chanina Paskin? Dam Rab Chanina said, Eidim B'tzad Istan. If Eidim are on the side of Istan, in a faraway Istanbul or whatever it is, V'teyasser, we're going to asser these girls. The story with Rab Chanina was the daughters of Shmuel came back to Israel. They were abducted and said that I think they said that nobody was metama us, and therefore we're permitted to marry a kohen. That we never were merzana with our kidnappers, and therefore we are permitted to marry a kohen. And people were talking in the street that there are Adim that said that while they were in captivity, they did zana with their captors, but we don't know. So it was only a chashash. So Rab Chanina said they're allowed to marry a Kohen. Why? Because the Adim are not here. Adim, you have a rumor about Adim, some faraway place. That you're going to answer these girls for marrying a Kohen? So the Gemara says the same thing over here. This woman, you're saying that there's a rumor out there that there are Adim somewhere that could say testimony that the husband did indeed have a brother. So you're going to answer this woman to get married? The Adim are not here. Amalei Abai said, "Im hekalnu b'shvuya nekel be'ishish." Are we just because we're going to go lenient on a shvuya, which is by the story of the captive girls? We're not going to be makel. We're not going to go lenient on something to do with a married woman. Married woman, first of all, is has a chazaka. This woman was a married woman, and the extension of her marriage is to fall to yibam, and therefore, in order to absolve somebody the connection to her husband, it has to be 100% certain that her husband died and there is no brothers. But if there is a rumor out there that there are brothers and she should fall to Yibim, we should not go lenient and allow her to marry without getting without knowing for certain that the rumor is not true, or if it is true, then she should go to Medina Siyam or whatever, wherever the brother might be, and get a chalitza. Let us be concerned about that, and we're not going to allow this woman to get married. New Gemara, if a person says this is my brother, he's not believed. Now, let's say there's Ruvain Shimon. The Gemara Mishnah said there's Ruvain and Shimon says, oh, we have a third brother in Levi, right? So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says that Shimon is the only one that's saying that there's another brother. So Shimon should split his part of the inheritance with Levi, because Ruvain doesn't agree to that. So therefore, Ruvain gets half of the inheritance, and Shimon will split his half with Levi because he's claiming there's another third brother here. So that's the question. V'idach, my ka'amri, and therefore that's what it means. If a person says this is my brother, he's not believed to cause the Ruvain to give up some of his inheritance. What is Reuven saying? If he's agreeing to that, achinahu, that it's my brother. So Reuven and Shimon are both agreeing that Levi is the brother. Why should only Shimon have to split his part to give Levi? Reuven agrees that Levi is a brother. Ella the ka'amre, because Reuven is saying la v'chinuhu, it's not my brother. He's certain that Levi is not the brother. So then, Amos Sefer, let us read the end of the Mishnah. End of the Mishnah says, if Levi inherited or purchased property from another place, and then he died, and Levi had no inheritors, Yishu Echav Imoy, then Reuven can collect on the inheritance. This Reuven that denied that Levi is a brother, now that Levi dies and had some money, he should be able to inherit Levi. But didn't Reuven say la v'chinu? He's not my brother. So why should we say that Reuven should inherit? How could you reconcile the beginning of the Mishnah with the end of the Mishnah? Answers the Gemara, the Mishnah is very simple. The ka'amri ein onu yodim. Reuven said, I don't know for sure if Levi is a brother. If Reuven says, I don't know for sure if Levi is a brother, so then we don't know for sure if Levi is the brother, so then we can't force him to give up his share of the inheritance to make Levi, to give it to Levi. But if Levi dies, then Reuven could inherit, because Shimon who's Reuven's brother, is for certain that Levi is the third brother. So therefore, Reuven can inherit. Amar Rava said, Zoysemeres, from the Mishnah you can come to the conclusion, Monali biyatka, if a guy says to you, you owe me money, V'halo oma ein yadein. A person says, I'm not sure if you owe me money. Pater, he's pater from paying. So if a guy goes, certainly you owe me money, and the guy says, I'm not sure if I owe you money, so the person who's not certain doesn't have to pay because he claims, I'm not sure if I owe you money. So that's called a bari and shema, and we say the bari doesn't win the case over here. The one who's 100% sure, and same thing over here. Shimon is 100% sure that Levi is the third brother. Reuven is not sure, but nevertheless, Reuven does not have to give up his share, his half share of the inheritance, because he's not sure, so he doesn't have to pay Levi. So that's how Rava concluded from our Gemara. Abaya said, La'olam, we go to Amid Beis, Kuf Lamed Hey Amid Beis. La'olam emelach, really I will tell you, Chayev. Really, I will tell you, when you have a bari and a shema, the guy, if the guy says, you owe me money, you owe me $1,000, and it says, other side says, I'm not sure, he has to pay. Because the bari, the guy that's 100% sure, is 100% sure you owe me money. Oh, so over here, over here is different. The reason why Reuven doesn't have to pay over here is simply that Levi is not the one that's really saying, I'm the third brother. It's Shimon who's talking on behalf of Levi, saying, I'm 100% sure that Levi is the brother. And therefore, to Shimon, Reuven is responding, I'm not sure. But Reuven can say to Shimon, you want me now to give my money that I inherited to Levi? I'm not, lav bal devarim didiyat. That's the expression. I'm not in a fight with you. And therefore, you're saying a bari on behalf of somebody else, so therefore you're not believed. And that's why Reuven does not have to give up his share of the inheritance to Levi. Now, Meis, Yachshur Nechasim Koimen. If Levi inherited from Shimon, in other words, Shimon split his share of the inheritance with Levi, and Levi now dies, Levi's share that he got from Shimon goes back to Shimon. That's what the Mishnah says. But what happens? Rava asked the question. Let's say Levi got the inheritance, part of the inheritance from Shimon, and it increased in value by itself. Levi didn't put any effort into it and increased in value. Does Shimon get that as well? Mahu, what's the din? If Levi gave Shimon, if Levi worked on the field, and therefore it embittered and enhanced the field, so then there's no question that Shimon does not inherit that, because it's Levi's effort that increased the value of the field. So that part, the extra enhancement, will probably be split between Reuven and Shimon. That's like as if Levi acquired property from not through Shimon. The question is, Levi didn't have to work for this this enhancement, this profit. Kagoin, Dikla, he got a tree from Shimon's split. Va'olam, and it got thicker, it got wider. Ari got a piece of land from Shimon, the Askesirtin, and then like a flooded the field, and it left a lot of good quality soil on the field. So Mao, when Levi dies, does that now field go directly to Shimon, or the enhancement of the property gets split between Reuven and Shimon? Teiku, the Mishnah, the Gemara remains by a question. Now a new Mishnah. Mishameis, the Nimtzis, a guy died, the Nimtzis, and they go to his pockets. The Nimtzis daisiki kishua al yarecha. In his pocket, or tied to his thigh, there was a piece of paper that he's giving his assets, his possessions, as a gift to somebody. Well, there's a piece of paper that says it, but he never got around to give the piece of paper. Harei zeh eino klim. It means nothing, because even though he wrote it, and probably it's a tzavah, but it was never given over in his lifetime. You see, it's still wrapped around his his foot, his thigh. He never actually gave it. So therefore it means nothing, because maybe he says that person should only get possessions of my assets only if he got this paper. Zika bola achar, but let's say in his lifetime he gave the piece of paper to somebody else. whether that somebody else is from his inheritors or not his inheritors, Devar Kayaman, then we follow through. Even if it's somebody who is not his inheritor, he gets all the property after the guy dies, because even though he himself did not make a kinyan, the piece of paper went to somebody else. But when a guy who's writing up a will, it's called a divrei shchivmara, it's as if there's a kinyan there automatically, and therefore the guy, the recipient, gets all the property as it's stated in the piece of paper. Tana Rabbana, the rabbis taught, Ezehu daisiki. What is called a daisiki? It's a funny type of word. Kol shekasaba, if it's written in the star, da tehei lemeka melias. This should be set up and always be. In other words, he's saying all my possessions should be gifted to this somebody else. Be'ezehu matana. What's considered a regular gift? Kol shekasaba, if it's written in the star, mahayoim, I'm giving it today, and after I die. Now, how do you do that? It's like a trust, that the actual ownership of the property is belonging for you right now, and you could the profits of the property, the rental income, you'll only be able to get it after I die. So that's the major difference between a daisiki and a gift. A daisiki is actually you're gifting it right after you die, and a matana, a gift, if you call it a matana, is you actually gifting it now, but the proceeds or the profits or the fruits of the property will only be to the recipient after you die. So that's the major difference. Like a matana would be like a trust. So the Gemara just has a shopkeeping thing. What do you mean? That's the only way to give a gift? You can't give a gift from now? Only if you say that from today and after I die, that's called a gift. But right now, if you say I'm gifting it right now, it's not a gift. Amar Abaya, of course you can give a gift right now. I can give anybody a gift at this moment. Amar Abaya hachi kama. This is what is meant to be said. What's considered a gift, as if which is the normal, like you could give a gift right now, which is similar to the gift of a guy on his deathbed. The loikona ela achamisa, where the recipient will not acquire or be able to benefit from it until after the person dies. Kol shekasaba, if it's written mahayoim lachamisa, like any trust, it's written that the transfer of the deed comes right now. You could only have the proceeds after I die. So that's called a matana, but that's not called a daisiki. A daisiki means he's gifting it. I guess the gift should take effect after he dies, or something like that. Dot tehei lemekam liyas. Yosef Rabba Barav Huna Mechsadr Rebbe Rav. Rabba Barav Huna was in the attic of Rav. Yosef V'kama Mishmeid Rabbi Yochanan, and he said something in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Shchiv Mara, a guy on his deathbed. Sha'omar, he said, Kisvu u'trumana leploni. The guy said, write up a star and give a mana to so and so. Umeis, that he died. So the fact he said write up a star and give it, he didn't say give it. Ain't kaisman v'noisen, that you don't write up the star after he dies. Shema lo'gama lahak noisai el b'star. Maybe that he didn't want the guy, the recipient, to receive it until he gets a piece of paper showing that he's gonna be receiving the mana. And since they didn't have time to write up the document when he was alive, so he doesn't get the mana. The ein star lachamisa, you can't write a star after a person dies, right? So therefore, that's the first thing. Amalahu Rabbi Lazar says, is the haruba. That's a very good comment of Rabbi Yochanan. Another minute. So that's Rabbi Yochanan made this statement, and Rabbi Lazar was the one that commented saying Rabbi Yochanan's statement is a very good statement. Rav Shvizi said, Rabbi Lazar made the statement. Amalu Rabbi Yochanan said, is the haruba. Rabbi Yochanan was the one that commented the Rabbi Lazar statement that it's a good statement. Again, the statement is, if a person says write and give a mana to so and so, on his deathbed, and he died, right? So then, after he died, since you didn't write the document when he was alive, then you don't write it after he died, because you can't write a shtar after a person dies. So, Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Rav Nachman Yitzchak concludes, Kavasei de Rav Shizvi Mistavra, makes sense what Rav Shizvi said. Yamrit Bishlama Rab Laza Amra. If you say Rab Laza was the one that said, Rab Laza was the student of Rabbi Yochanan. So therefore, Rab Laza made the statement, and then Rabbi Yochanan, his master, his teacher, said, it's a good statement. It's Rabbi Yochanan Asudei Alai Rabbi Laza. Rabbi Yochanan said, that makes sense what you're saying. So the rabbi is agreeing with his student. Ella, but if you say not so, Yamrit Rabbi Yochanan Amra, if you're going to say Rabbi Yochanan said it, does Rabbi Yochanan have to say testimony that Rabbi Lazar saying on his rabbi that he said good? Of course, Rabbi Lazar is a student. Rabbi Lazar shouldn't comment that Rabbi Yochanan's statement is a good statement. So therefore, that's Rav Shizvi's version of who said the statement was Rabbi Lazar, and Rabbi Yochanan commented and complimented it. That's the right version. Okay, we'll stop over here. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Shkayach, have a good Shabbos.
Shabbos.